Albert Breer joining me via the Coward Global Satellite Network. So, Albert, this whole Tom Brady thing, I'm over discussing when he retires, but I do think the transition potentially of moving, I didn't buy into it initially. I just can't see Giselle saying, yeah, let's move the family to Indianapolis. But I read a story this weekend from a Boston reporter at NBC that said Tom is kind of over being the 13th highest paid quarterback in the league. He sacrificed a lot. And that's the kind of thing where I have seen even athletes I love and respect, there is a respect card on the money. That made me think this thing is real with Tom. What did you make of that story?
Well, you used the right word, Colin. The word is respect. This isn't about money. It's about respect. And I take it back to what happened in July when they gave him that pay bump. Really, the problem there, the reason Brady was upset coming out of that negotiation, it wasn't about money. It was about years. He wanted them to get him to the end of his career and ensure that he would finish his career with the Patriots. And for the first time, the wording you heard coming out of ownership was uncharted territory. Now, that sounds logical to me and you, but if you've given an organization 20 years, how are you going to read that? Like, you're going to say to yourself, well, wait a second. I just gave you 2 decades. I add how much value to your franchise. I put 6 Lombardi trophies in your trophy case, and now you're talking about me creating uncharted territory for you. So I think that there's a respect thing here that I think was part of it in the summer, and certainly as a result is a part of it now. And if they're not going to give him the years, then it's going to have to be made up for with money. And look, like I've said this to you a few times, Colin, he enables everything about their program. The fact that they can coach him hard enables them to coach everybody else hard. The fact that he's taken less money in the past enables them to ask others to take less money. All of this stuff is sort of part of the 20-year relationship between the Patriots and Brady. And I think when things broke down over the summer, it sort of got Brady to look at it and say, well, wait a second, this is a two-way street.
Let me throw this at you. Let's say he looks around. He doesn't want to move to Indy. Chargers move on and draft Tua or Justin Herbert. And you look around, he doesn't want to live in, he's above Tampa or Jacksonville. Would there be the potential that Tom looks around, he doesn't get the money or the years from New England, the teams, the Carolinas, the Chargers, they move on and draft people, and Tom just said, you know what, I'm out. Is there any chance of that? Like, I'm done. I'm 43. I've got my money. I'm not playing for that dollar figure.
I don't think it's his intention now to retire. I will say that. Do I think that there's the potential that he looks at his options, doesn't like them, and maybe decides to hang it up? Yeah, I think that's possible. I mean, there's been a couple of things that he said. He said he doesn't want to suck, right? Like, so if he feels like he's losing it, then I think he'd be comfortable walking away. And I don't think he wants to be in a situation where he's with a team that isn't going to be competing at the highest level. And so I do think that there are a couple of boxes that need to be checked. One, of course, is feeling that he can continue to play. I think that box is already checked. And then the other part of it is finding a winning situation for himself. And Colin, the one thing I would point out here that I think is sort of an important piece, you talk about the real estate, where he's going to live and everything else. He has a kid who lives in New York. His son, Jack, lives in New York City. And I think ultimately because of that, because Giselle likes New York City, that's eventually going to be where they're going to settle. So let's just put this in real life terms for you, right? Say you didn't know where you were going to work over the next year, but you did know where your family is going to be for the next 20 years. What would you do with your family? You'd probably move them to where they were going to be for the next 20 years and say, you know what, I'm going to be the one who's going to move around over the next year or two while I continue to work. And so I think there's certainly a chance that Brady says with his family, we're going to put you in the New York area for right now, and I'm going to go where I need to go work-wise. And I certainly think some of the teams that you mentioned there could be on the table, the Chargers, the Titans, with the relationship with Mike Vrabel. I think there are some winning situations out there, but I don't think he's just going to go somewhere.
By the way, I want to throw you were in this living, breathing situation with Jimmy Garoppolo. This is not a surprise. Take us back to when we know why, Tom wanted him out and he wanted more years and Garoppolo wanted to play. But watching Garoppolo now, this is what Bill Belichick saw, I imagine.
Yeah, and I'll take it back to 2017 and the combine in Indianapolis in February. Kyle Shanahan and Bill Belichick sat down and they were talking about a number of different things as coaches do during the combine, things that might happen in free agency and the draft. And Jimmy's name came up and Bill stopped Kyle and said, non-starter, he's not on the table, we're not moving him. Fast forward 8 months, the Niners, I believe at this point, were 0-8, 0-9, and they were coming off a really bad loss to Philadelphia Eagles. Kyle is driving into the office in California. It's 5 in the morning. He gets a text from Bill Belichick, says, "Call me when you get in." He calls Belichick, and Belichick says, "Here's the deal. I don't want to negotiate. I don't want to talk about it. You're going to have Jimmy for a second-round pick." Kyle almost drops the phone. Kyle then walks into John Lynch's office, says to Lynch, "The only concern I have is that he's not signed beyond this year, so this might create a little bit of an unstable situation at quarterback." Lynch responds, "That's what the franchise tag is for." He goes back and calls Belichick, and the deal is done. And so the big question you have then is, how did he go from untradeable in February to all of a sudden being moved for a second-round pick in October, particularly when I was told that the Cleveland Browns were willing to move the pick they got from the Houston Texans, which wound up being 4th overall for Garoppolo. And to me, the easiest answer, Bill Belichick wanted to do right by Jimmy Garoppolo and put him in a place where he thought he could succeed. He's got tremendous respect for Kyle Shanahan. And I also think that Bill Belichick looks at Jimmy Garoppolo's development as part of his legacy. So by putting him in San Francisco and making him look good, it would make Belichick look like the winner in that whole situation.
Boy, that was a great story. I love stories like that. I like hearing about, that's like a mob story where somebody gets called on the phone in the car on the way to work and big stuff happens. I love that. Albert Breer. I want to ask you about this. Andy Reid is one of my favorite coaches ever, but there is a sense with me that there's narratives if they lost that would come down hard on Andy Reid. He's given Belichick problems. He's had B to B minus quarterbacks and gotten now to 2 Super Bowls. I think Mahomes is obviously the best he's ever had. When you look at Andy Reid, when you talk to people around the league, you do more than I do. I think they're rooting for Andy. I think coaches around the league are rooting for Andy. Just your thoughts on that.
Yeah, he gets tremendous respect around the league. Like, obviously, the first part of it is how great he's been as a coach over the years. But there's a second piece to this, too, in what he's given to the profession. And if you look at his tree and the people who've come out of his tree and succeeded, guys like John Harbaugh and Ron Rivera, he's not only a great coach, he's been a great developer of coaches. And you've seen executives come out of the Eagles front office, now the Chiefs front office. You see Chris Ballard, the success that he's having in Indianapolis. And so there's almost like this professional development area that Andy Reid's excelled in beyond just the success in the football field. And so there are a lot of Andy's people out there across the league, and even people who haven't worked with Andy have a tremendous respect, not just what he's done as a coach, but also what he's done for the business of football. And so I think that's why you've got so many people out there rooting for Andy Reid. The crazy thing about it, Colin, is, you mentioned sort of his record and everything else. The guy is elite in just about every area. There's one hole. It's game management. He's elite at developing quarterbacks. He's elite at calling plays. He's elite at designing an offense. He's elite at putting together a team. He's elite at setting up an organization. And there's just, for whatever reason, been this one hole in game management. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the Super Bowl. If that gets tested and he can pass that test, maybe he can finally plug that one hole in his resume.
Albert Breer, Monday Morning Quarterback. Great talking to you, bud. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Colin.
Coming up next, the NBA likes to think we're catching the NFL. But who you choose as the face of your league matters. And it's why the NFL is in a really, really good spot for the next 10 to 15 years. That is coming up. Plus, TJ Hushmanzada, Byron Scott last hour here in Los Angeles. Well, it is definitely, without question, winter. Mid-January, getting to the end of January. There's some big storms this past week. And the thing about winter, it's brutal outside, but it can be cozy on the inside, especially when you're staying and sleeping on a Casper. Award-winning mattresses, pillows, sheets, duvets. Casper transforms the way we sleep, keeps us cozy. Award-winning balance and comfort. 4 layers premium foam. Trademarked zone support, big for me because it gives you back alignment. Bed frames, dog bed, bedding, they have it all, plus free shipping and returns. That's free as well. Every Casper mattress comes with a 100-night risk-free trial. Sleep on it for over 3 months. Not like a sleep store where you get 3 minutes on the thing. Over 3 months, don't like it, send it back at no cost. Start waking up on the right side of the bed, 10% off. Terms and conditions apply. Just go to Casper.com, code COZY. Casper.com, code COZY.